Are you interested in running for office? Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Kiki.
And I'm Kemi.
And you're listening to
Your Advisors Will See You Now, a podcast that will help you to figure out all of your options for life after high school. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. If you are new here, this is our Career Chats episode where we interview people in different career fields so you can actually understand what it is that they do and how they got into it. So today I have one of my friends from back in the day. I have Katherine Kazarian. I'm going to share a little bit of her bio. Katherine Kazarian has served the residents of East Providence and Pawtucket, Rhode Island in District 63 since first being elected in November 2012 and January 2021. She was elected by the Democratic colleagues as the House Majority Whip, the first highest ranking position of the House leadership team. She is a member of the House State Government and Elections Committee, the Municipal Government and Housing Committee, the Housing Rules Committee, and the House Special Legislation Committee. Katie, welcome to our podcast. Thank you for coming on today.
Kemi, thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here.
Thank you. And then quick side story. So I remember it was actually 2012. I was back at home from college and I opened my door and I saw a flyer. It was like running for district representative. I was like, Katie, I was like, what? And you actually wrote a little note on it too. And I was like, oh my gosh. So
yeah.
Totally amazing. Also, just saying coming out of college and you're running for district representative, I was like, what the heck am I doing? I was like, Katie's out here killing it.
So yeah, anybody can run for office at any age. I got the bug early because I got really, really lucky. I graduated from college. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I got inspired by, at the time, President Barack Obama. He ended up being the commencement speaker at Barnard College when I graduated, and he was just the coolest person I'd ever seen. He was so charismatic, and he was so passionate about helping other people and getting involved in your communities. And Kemi, you probably remember it was a recession. It was a difficult time. And I remember every time I'd go back to East Providence, which was my hometown, I would read things about budget commissions and, East Providence being a difficult place. And the president's words just really stuck with me in that moment. And I remember thinking, like, I can go to my hometown. I can help. Those are the streets that I remember trick-or-treating on. And these are the, people I played soccer with or, went to elementary school with. And so he inspired me. And I got the bug really early. And I just spent that whole summer door knocking and introducing myself to voters and actually reconnecting with a lot of old friends, which was fun too. So, but yes, that flyer that you got in the door, sorry I missed you, probably what it said on it. That was for me. Yeah, that crazy summer.
Gosh. But that, I just love also how you said, just right off the gate, like you just had a passion for it. And even though you were young, you just hopped in there and you got your like feet wet. You got into it, like the politics of just really jumping in there and making a difference in our community, which I think is amazing. And can you just tell us exactly, like, do you have to hold the same title that you held since then? I know you have, is there different names for it? Because it says like House Majority Whip. Is that the same as like, is that the same?
Yeah. So when I run for office, I run, so Rhode Island has 75 different representatives that serve in the House chamber. So I serve in the 63rd district and it has about 15,000 people. So every time I go and run for office, I go knock on those doors and seek re-election. And then I was very fortunate enough in 2021 to then be, after that election, to go back to the House and then be picked by my colleagues in the House, those 75 members, to serve as the House Majority Whip. So it's almost like two different elections. You have the one, which is your community, and they send you to serve, in the role of the State House. And then you have your colleagues at the State House who then pick you to serve in the role as Majority Whip. So I've been doing both since 2021, and I just love it. Both jobs are really interesting, and they're really fun. So it's been great.
It's amazing. I'm wondering if I should, where should I start with the educational background first, or should I even just let's dig into first Majority Whip, or what would you, if you're describing your role to someone who's a young adult who maybe has a little bit of political backing and understanding, what would you kind of explain this as your role and what it does?
So I think the role whip or majority whip is a really funny term because it sounds kind of aggressive. And I don't look at my role as being aggressive. I look at my role as being accessible and being a good listener. So what I try to do is spend my time listening to my colleagues, listening to their concerns, both in their communities and concerns about legislation that we're considering on the House floor, and try and get them to a place where I'm educating them on the bill. I'm bringing their concerns to the sponsor. Maybe I'm bringing different groups together so they can work through their issues on policy, and yeah, just really listening, educating, and helping. Um, Sometimes it's a little intimidating. We have a fabulous House Speaker who is everywhere all at once and really accessible, and a really good listener himself. And we also have a wonderful Majority Leader. Both of them are top notch. But sometimes I think just having a third person there to really listen and help. That's what I look at my role as being. So if you like being with people and you like helping people, it's a really good role for you.
I like that. You're kind of the one that is the middle woman trying to pull in the best for what needs to happen here. It sounds like.
Yeah, like I'd like to think and I say this to new representatives when they're elected. I don't want anyone to feel like they can't talk to me about something, and I don't want people to feel like there are a lot of surprises. Like I want people to feel like they've had enough time to think things through. They've had somebody that'll give them the good news or the bad news, but that'll just be honest with them, and help them find out where their footing is on a bill and work through, potentially getting them to a yes, or maybe, if they have to be a no, working through messaging on that and what that looks like. So yeah, like kind of a middle person, definitely a people person. I'm always on the phone and I'm always going to another event to talk to people about their issues, and I like it. It's fun.
Can you tell us a little bit about your educational background, how it led to here?
Yeah. So like I said, born and raised in East Providence. I had a lot of family in New York City and always loved to go and visit them. And my mom actually went to Barnard College in the 70s. And I remember she took me and my sister to some alumni event when we were little, and we were both enthralled. We just loved the college campus. We loved the school. In particular, with Barnard, it's a women's college. It's one of the original seven sister schools, but it is very like the whole community is very closely tied in with Columbia. So it's like it's the women's college, but you'll have the co-ed classrooms and the co-ed majors, which is nice. But I remember just being so inspired by all these women that I saw there that weekend and wanting to go there so badly. So I applied when I was little, I got in. Oh, okay. But yeah, anyways, I went to the school and it was just the same, like incredible women that were all really inspiring and all really different, which was great. And it's funny because Kemi, I felt like we had that at Bayview in high school and in middle school. And I think people thought I was crazy for, wanting to, again, continue on with the all women's college. But I just felt it was so inspiring. It was so cool to meet all these very different women that were all very passionate about different things and also, figuring out who they were. And, while in school there, I decided to major in two different majors. One was urban studies, and then also economics. I'll be honest, economics was not, I kind of forced economics on myself because I thought it would be a good background, and it ended up being so, especially at the State House. But it definitely wasn't like what I was naturally suited for. I really liked urban studies, though. I love the history of cities and how they grow and why they suffer. And that was really my educational background. But I'd really say socially, just learning and meeting from all those women was really helpful and really, really cool experience.
So did you always know when, because now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, when we were back in school, weren't you on, what do they call it, student council?
Oh yeah, I did do that. Kemi, you're bringing out all the notes. Yeah, I did that. That's right.
Right. So I'm like, did you always have that piece of like, you wanted to be in politics, like from the jump?
Really? I have to say, I didn't always think I would run for office, but looking back on it, there were definitely signs because I'm just a people person. I just like being around people. I like meeting new people. I like puzzles. I like solving things. And I think with politics, especially, there's a lot of this, everybody's bad, or don't want to get in politics. It's just bad. People are bad. And, I think there's this messaging out there. I mean, sure, it can be difficult. Every job can be difficult, but this messaging is like discouraging. It's discouraging people from running for office. It discourages people from voting. But in reality, this job can be whatever you want it to be. And if you care about helping people, I feel like you can always make it something great. So yeah, I guess, there are things, and when you're running for office and serving, I always think be true to yourself. Like there are some things that I think are kind of cheesy and I don't really, partake in them, or, there might be some issues that I don't know enough about and I'm not going to lead on it. But it's great to have so many fabulous colleagues, which we really do in the Rhode Island House of Representatives, that you can learn from and that you can support. And we really work well together. And that's been a nice part too. So yeah, if you like helping people and you like working with others, it's a great role to have.
Mm-hmm. When you were in college, did you do any kind of, we were talking before we hopped on the recording, like internships in like the political space, or was it mostly in probably still some kind of internships that still interacted with community wise and helping people?
So it's funny. I didn't do anything political when I was in New York, but I would always come home and help candidates in Rhode Island. So my mom took me into the voting booth since I was a baby. I always got so excited to go voting. This is back in the day. I'm going to date myself. Kemi, you probably remember this. The big black curtain they used to pull, around themselves and pull a lever and to vote. And I just thought it was so exciting. And my mom really instilled that in us, that it's important to vote. It's important to always learn about the candidates and take this stuff very seriously. And so when I was in college, she was always involved in some kind of campaign, always for a Democrat. And we'd come home, she'd tell us all about these candidates, and she'd say, now we're going to go door knocking for them. Now we're going to go canvassing for them. Now we're going to go to their fundraiser and we're going to give, even if it's $25, just something because this is democracy and this is what you do. So I feel like I got to learn about candidates in Rhode Island early, like when I was very young. And she made it so it was a comfortable space for me to be in because she was in it. So yeah, I guess like politically that I really always did stuff in Rhode Island. And then when I was in New York, I did a lot of like community work. So I worked with this organization called Piece by Piece. And it was just a group of college students. We would go to, it was actually like a part of an after school program in the Bronx. And we would just really talk to kids about, violence, conflict resolution, violence in their communities, and, what they can do to resolve issues. And then we'd also talk to them a little bit about, education and the importance of education. And I enjoyed that work. That was really fun. It was totally non-political. So I do find now in my role, it's fun when you have kind of a mix of both of those. So when we have either students come to visit or I get to go and visit in the schools, it's fun to just talk to people about, or even children about, issues and the importance of voting and passing policies that matter, and kind of getting their take on it and getting them inspired. So, yeah.
Wow. And it sounds like your mom played such a key role in like your heart for that too, in like kind of that political space, and like how it like kind of trickled into that now. I'm not even like, and I think it's very important too, because I feel as though like now like elections are coming up in November. I think sometimes we always just look at the main presidential election, that sometimes we can, for like maybe young adults, forget that there are these other elections that are very important for your community. I don't know if you want to take like a little space real quick to speak to the importance of that and voting for those elections as well, if you want to.
Oh, absolutely. I think we forget that state governments really pass. They have the police power, and they pass a lot of bills and a lot of laws that really impact our day to day. And I think, we like you just said, we give so much space and so much time to these national elections, which are also extremely important. But it's great to know, where does your state representative stand? Where does your state senator stand? Because there are so many big issues, a women's choice, educational issues, schooling issues. Like we just saw today, Tim Walz, the governor from Missouri, was selected to be the vice presidential nominee pick for Kamala Harris for the Democratic ticket. And, we're learning about his policies and the things he was able to implement that had a huge impact on the state of Missouri. Like they have universal lunches and breakfast for their students there. They protect the trans community, from hatred and all kinds of issues up there. So, these governor, all of your statewide officers are really impactful, and definitely it's important to learn about them, take your time to research about them, and help them. If they have issues that you like, or stances that you like, go and help them. And if they don't, I reach out to them. I love hearing from constituents, even the ones that I disagree with. I think it's really educational for me, and it just makes me be a better representative. So I think the more people you hear from, the better. And then maybe if they're inaccessible, or you have different views on things, you run for office and you give it a shot, because I think people love when new people get involved in politics and they see that passion. I think it's really, really cool.
Thanks for speaking to that, Katie. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Now, this one might be a little tricky, but I'm wondering, could you kind of speak to what a day-to-day looks like for you in your role?
Oh, sure. So every day is different. And, I'll say in this role too, for every state, it's different. So another cool thing since running for office has been learning about the different state legislatures and how different all of us are. Here in Rhode Island, we're a part-time legislature. That means that we formally meet for a session starting in January and ending in June. We also only meet about 2 days a week, 2 or 3 days a week, for formal session and for committee hearings. So our committee or our session will start around 4 p.m. So I'll usually get to the State House around 3. This way I can meet up with reps if I need to, or other advocates. We'll have session. We'll vote on legislation. And then when that ends, oh, you can probably hear my cat. And then when that ends, I go to committee, and committee can end. I mean, it can go until like 6 o'clock, or it can go until midnight. We've had committee hearings that have gone really, really late. Some, 3 o'clock in the morning. Those are for the really like passionate issues, common sense gun control issues and abortion rights. Those usually go late into the night. Another cool thing about Rhode Island State House, which I think is really cool, but not every state is like this. Anybody can come and testify in front of our committees. So you don't have to be a paid lobbyist. Isn't that cool? You don't have to be an advocate. You don't have to be representing any group. You could just be a citizen who wants to voice their position on an issue. And I try to challenge any passionate citizens that I know. I try to encourage them to come to the State House and challenge them to come and speak in front of a committee, because I think it's a cool experience and something unique about Rhode Island. My day to day is very, and I'll kind of back up a little bit too. Talking about our part-time legislature, I say it's kind of broken up into 3 different parts. So that January to March is very much like people introducing legislation. There's a lot of press conferences around legislation. So I'm usually kind of hustling to the State House to get there for those. Helping kind of build different coalitions of people I think might be supportive of issues. Then there's the middle third, which is really the committee hearings. That's when those committee hearings go late at night, and you're learning about the issues through that process. And then the final part is really when we're passing legislation on the House floor. So that's the final product that's come out of committee. And then we'll be on the House floor sometimes till 8, 9 o'clock at night, passing bills, debating bills. So my day to day is very different depending on what third of the session we're in. That middle part, I'm in committees. I'm listening. I'm trying to figure out what I can do to help bills either move or resolve any issues. And then the last part is when I'm trying to just make sure all the members are there, make sure people are ready to vote, and then helping craft arguments, which is really fun too.
I'm trying to even picture how was your transition into this role, coming out of college and now bam. You know what I mean? You're doing all of it. How was that transition for you?
So I remember I kept saying, is there a book I can read? Is there a video I can watch? Is there something that I can do to prepare? Because I remember before I announced that I was going to run, I remember feeling like I was completely inadequate. I had this passion, and I thought the president was really cool, and I really wanted to get involved in my community. But I also remember saying to my mom and my sister, I don't think I could do this. Nobody's going to take me seriously. And I remember both of them were like, but you care, you're passionate, and you want to be helpful, and you want to learn. And, that's really the only thing that you need, public. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm back. Can you hear me? Okay. I can't hear you. No.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Anyways, public speaking and fundraising and all of that stuff, it'll come. You just, people want to help a candidate that is hardworking and that cares. So it kind of fell into place. And I definitely, was not good at public speaking beforehand, and I was not good at fundraising. And you just kind of find your voice. Like, it's almost like learning how to swim. You just kind of got to get in the water and do the work, and then it'll come to you. And you know what else? I really watched other reps that I thought were really good. I watched other politicians that I thought were good. Like, I love watching old debates because I feel like you can really pick up on how people approach questions. And yeah, and then again, there are so many fantastic legislators in Rhode Island that I really got to learn from, which was great. So I recommend, watching all that stuff, and again, learning from the elected officials you have in your state to, and find your own voice. But it's definitely possible. And I think as long as you care, you can do it.
Mm. Yeah, I think, and well, this actually segues into my next question of what skills are needed for your career. And I mean, the one that's always popping up is passion, like for your community. And then honestly, just belief in yourself. I mean, like,
Yeah.
It's just it still astonishes me. Like, you just you just graduated college and you stepped into this role. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, when you leave college, you're kind of in this space of, okay, like, what do I do next? Like, what's my first job?
Totally.
An office is like such a big step. So it's so awesome to hear you took on that challenge, you took on that belief, and you did it, So I think that's so admirable. And I think a lot of people really do need to hear, like, it takes that step, it takes that courage. But in this role, what else do you think are skills that are needed for this career?
I'd say two things. Like, one for me is whenever I have a big project in front of me, I try to break it down into like my day to day. So I'm running for office. This is very overwhelming. I can't believe I'm doing this. What do I need to do today to make sure that I, will have done my best job campaigning, and everybody will know where I stand for and they'll want to vote come election day? And it's like, all right, what's my messaging? What do I care about? Okay, I got that. All right, now I got to design a literature, mailers. Okay, you do that. All right, now I got to go cut some turf and go door knocking. And I just really kind of broke it down into little bits, and I tried to stay as organized as possible, and make sure I was using my time wisely. And that really helped me kind of conquer this big thing, which was running for office. So I'd say, like, organizational skills, and whenever I felt something insurmountable in front of me, just breaking it down into small parts, I found that was really helpful. And the second part, and this is something I don't think we talk about enough, is like, find your community. And for me, it was really my mom and my sister. I was so lucky I had people like that in my life that, inspired me and also backed me. And that, I think, is just such a privilege that I had. And I think we don't talk about that stuff enough. I think sometimes we think people just got to these places and, how do they do it? And usually they have these, like, incredible support systems. And for me, it was certainly that. That helped me get there. And I think for everybody, like, find those people in your life that make you feel special, and they're supportive of you, and they don't laugh at you when you come up with crazy ideas like running for office at 22. I think that's really helpful. Yeah, but I gotta think of other things, but yeah, those are definitely the two.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of running for office? Like, how did you officially say, hey, I'm here? Like, where'd you sign up? Can you walk us through that whole process?
Yeah. So again, every state is different, but here in Rhode Island, you have 3 days to declare, and they're in June, and they're every 2 years. So I walk down to City Hall, you sign up, sign on a sheet, you bring your ID with you, they verify that you're a registered voter, and you can run for office. And then they give you a stack of papers. And with that stack of papers is a map of your district, so you can see, where your lines are, where your streets are. They also give you a list of all the different voters in your district and their party affiliation and their address. And then they also give you these sheets with numbers on them. And those sheets with the numbers on them, you need to get 50 signatures. 50 different voters have to sign to say that you can be on the ballot. And you have to return that in 2 weeks. So when I first ran, I spent 2 weeks just door knocking and getting as many voters to sign on to this. It doesn't mean they have to say that they're voting for me, but just to say that they're a voter in the district and I can be on the ballot. So that was like the first part. You take those 50 signatures, they get verified by the board of canvassers, and then you are good to go. You're on the ballot. After that, I worked on designing. I call it a palm card. It's you're just your literature that you would take around with you, and when you go door knocking and give to voters. I spent a lot of time designing that again with my mom and my sister, really talking about messaging. I also designed my mailers. Again, we worked on messaging and we took pictures, but you work with different design studios to kind of finalize that. I scheduled a fundraiser, which was really awkward, and we could talk a little bit about fundraising in a second. Just to raise money so I could pay for these mailers and these different palm cards and all of this stuff. And then after that, I really just spent all afternoon from 4 p.m. until dark door knocking and talking to voters. And then on the weekends, I would start at 10 and I would break for lunch and I'd go back until again it was dark, talking to as many voters as possible. And I was really proud of myself in each of those elections. I was able to get to every voter. But yeah, it's really like there's the intense part where you're making sure you get on the ballot and you're designing all of your literature. But then after that, it's really just about going and talking to voters. And most important thing you can do is after you have a good conversation with them, ask them for their vote or ask them to be considered, because you want to make sure people know that you're asking them to do something, that you need their vote. But yeah, that's kind of like how that process goes. And then come election day, your stomach is in knots. You're really nervous. Every time you stand at a polling location, you think nobody's voting for me. This is so foolish. I can't believe I did this. And then, it was really exciting to find out that you wanted the whole community that helped you get there is just really exciting. So I don't know if that's like a little bit of the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. Did you have to do any, obviously not like something big like a debate or anything, but it was
I did.
You did? Okay. Can you talk about that?
I did. So we had a debate at the public library in East Providence. I was, again, shaking, so nervous. But I did a couple things. One, I watched old debates on YouTube. So I had an idea, again, of the cadence of learning how to debate. One of the best debates I watched was Elizabeth Warren and Scott Brown. And I think that might have also been from 2012. Elizabeth Warren was phenomenal. And I saw she didn't lose her cool. And she, really just stuck to the issues and talked about the voters. And I tried to think about that when I was debating. And then I watched a really old debate from like I think it was 1988, maybe with Bill Clinton. He was, again, stuck to the issues, really, really good. My debate at the public library was nowhere near as important as any of those debates. But again, you kind of get that sense of how to respond to a question, which was cool. I also worked with my mom and sister. We kind of came up with a bunch of questions that we thought might come up and just what my response would be. And yeah, so I went to the debate. The one question I didn't prepare for that they asked me was, what books have you read lately? And this answer still haunts me. I remember saying, I haven't been reading books. I've been running for office, which just made me sound so foolish. But I was like, yeah. And my mom was like, you just finished college. You couldn't have just referenced the book you read like 3 months ago. I was like, well, right now I'm not, I wasn't reading something. So kind of embarrassing, but you know what? You just keep moving. It's just like in life, you just keep moving and you laugh it off and you keep moving. So good.
That is funny. So did you only have to do one debate?
I did 2 debates my first time. I did one. So we had a primary. So it was all the Democrats that were running. And then I was victorious and I was able to go on to the general election. And then I had another debate with my general election opponent. Right. Yeah. And actually, I want to say, again, going back a little bit to politics being divisive and people being, very against politics or running for office. All of the races that I've ever been in have been really positive, and candidates have really stuck to their own message. And, I like to, every campaign's different, every area is different, but I always like to run my race about what I've done, what I've accomplished, and what I've plan to do. And all of my opponents have done the same thing. And I think it's nice when you set a good tone with your campaign. I think every candidate has that opportunity to do that, and I think it's important. And just another factor to show in, a lot of this stuff in campaigns is within your control, and I think it's important to keep them positive and about the voters and about the future.
Mm-hmm. What it should be about,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Can you? Sorry, go ahead.
No. What were you going to say?
So you mentioned earlier about fundraising, because I was going to ask you that question as well. It sounds like there's a lot of startup money that goes into this as well. So I was going to say, but then you mentioned fundraising. So how does that work?
So fundraising is hard, and I'm just going to come out and say that, especially if you're somebody like me that just is uncomfortable with asking for money. I feel, I think especially too, like coming from a, daughter of a single mom, like there's just something about, feeling funny about money and you want to be proud and, make your own way. And you realize that, half the battle in politics is fundraising. Because if you don't raise enough money, you're not going to be able to get your message out. And, also it's good for people to have some kind of stake in the election, and people want to donate to candidates that they believe in because they want to be a part of it. So kind of learning that balance was interesting. But yeah, I invited like everybody that I knew in the community. My ticket was really cheap. I think that's actually a good thing to do with first time candidates. Make it cheap. Make it like $25. Nowadays with Act Blue, it's really easy. It's something I try to do is I try to find kind of candidates that I like even throughout the country, and just if it's like $25 or something, just to give them that support, because it takes money to run for office. But yeah, I remember, another thing too is I got $700 when I graduated from college. I was really excited, all from like family and friends. And all that money I used to buy lawn signs for my first election, which was like really kind of a gut punch at 22. I thought I was going to get like a fancy purse or something with it. And instead I used it to buy lawn signs. But again, the best investment I could have made because it's been, helped me get to where I'm at, which is cool. And then you kind of learn when you get a little bit older that like I probably would have today disliked that fancy purse I would have spent that $700 on. But, now instead I have went towards building a cool career that I like. Cool. But it's hard to think that way when you're 22.
I know.
But,
you're so young, but you were thinking clearly, because you were even taking the step to be in office.
I was trying. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, fundraising is necessary, and I think even if you don't want to run for office, I say like try and find a candidate that you like, go and help them, and if you don't have the time to do that, find a candidate that you like and give them a little money, like even if it's $10, just something. It's just it really helps candidates, get their message across, which is awesome. It's part of the democratic process.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the highlights of your job in addition to challenges? It sounds like the fundraising can be a little bit of one, but what do you think are some highlights and challenges of this career?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with challenges. Like in Rhode Island, it's a part-time legislature, so we balance with full-time careers and serving in the legislature. So time can be challenging. But again, if you stay organized, you're able to pull it all off, and that feels, and it's all things that you like, so it's good. I'll say too, like I just said, fundraising is tough. Asking for money is tough. But then the highlights have really been like the relationships I've been able to form, and the people that I've met that I never would have otherwise met in my life had it not been for politics. And then two is like the legislation that we've passed has been really, really great. I feel very passionately about protecting a women's right to choose, and women's access to abortion, and making sure that every woman has access to if they need, that they would be able to make that decision privately. They would have access to the care that they need. And a couple of really cool bills we've been able to pass in my time in the legislature. One was codifying Roe v. Wade in Rhode Island and making sure that all women would have access to an abortion if they needed one. And then two was passing legislation that would make sure that any woman that needed an abortion would have financial coverage for it. So it wouldn't just be the privileged women that had money that were able to pay for an abortion. It would be all women in Rhode Island, regardless of their economic status, that they'd be able to have access to it. And passing bills like that just you really feel good. You really feel like this is why I run. You're helping people, and you're ensuring that their fundamental rights are protected. And you're not, it's a team sport. So you're doing it with all these great legislators, and you're all working together. And those highlights are really, really fabulous. And again, like I've met people all over the state I never would have otherwise met, and knowing all of them and working with all of them has been really fabulous.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned, we mentioned off the recording, but now you just completed the bar. So talk to us a little bit about this new journey that you're on, how being like a district representative kind of led to this now. Share a little bit of that with us, please.
Sure. So I just went to law school, and then I found kind of job tangentially in tech that I worked as a client success manager. It was my day job. And I liked that job, but I felt like, again, going back to that challenge, it was hard to manage this role, and also manage being a state representative. And a small silver lining for me in COVID was my job transitioned to work from home, and I had a little bit of extra time. So I was able to kind of think more about career wise, like what is it that I like, what is it that I want to do, and I really liked the work that we do in the legislature, and I always noticed that the attorneys had more final say in the kind of bills that we passed and the language of the bills. And you notice how everybody in the room would always just defer to what the attorney said. It didn't matter if it was right or wrong. It was, their attorney, and they probably know what they're saying is right. I also noticed that the attorneys that served in the House chamber with me, their arguments were always so much better. Like the way they would craft their arguments and speak on the House floor was just so like top notch. And I was really inspired by that. So again, during this time in COVID, I had a little bit extra time, studied for the LSAT, and I was able to go to law school, which was really fun. I went back a little bit older, which I highly recommend because, a lot of those concerns that you have when you're 20 something is just not a concern when you're in your 30s. So, it's able to balance school and the legislature. And I just graduated in May, which was great. Until I realized I also have to take the bar. The bar is a very intense process. Oh, yeah, we were supposed to do this call months ago, but I couldn't because I had to study for the bar. But it's not that intimidating. Anybody can do that. If you care about this stuff and you want to get involved and you want to go to law school, totally can do it. You just got to make sure you set the time aside to study. So yeah, I just took the bar a couple weeks ago. It's the craziest process. I just told Kemi before we started talking. It was in a convention hall in Massachusetts, and it was 1,500 people you've never met are all around you having the same anxiety that you're having. But again, totally doable and hopefully well worth it. We'll find out in October if I passed or not.
I will say, Katie, I've interviewed a lawyer on here, and my aunt, she's a judge in Providence and Traffic Court.
Oh, wow.
And you are the only one out of these two interviews that said law school is fun. So I'm like, where did you go? Talk to me a little bit about how you're taking your classes.
Oh, man, I know. Again, so I'm going to say, I think it's because I was older and I was just so excited to be back at school. When I graduated from undergrad was hard. I mean, it was a lot of work. Like I said, economics did not come naturally to me, but and I really had to put in the time and the work to have that major. And I was done. And I remember saying to my mom, "I'm never going back to school. I'm tired. I just want to have a job." And then, like I said, being inspired by other people at the State House, I decided to go back. I went to Roger Williams University here in Rhode Island. The school is fabulous. They really kind of worked with me scheduling wise. Like I had to change a couple classes around just because of my job in the legislature, and they worked with me on that. But I really liked it. I think partly because I'm in the legislature, so I kind of like some of these terms I had heard before. But I think also too, like working and then going back to school helped because you realize that you're picking it more. Whereas, I think when you go right from undergrad, I've had a few friends tell me, like, my mom said I should do this, or, I don't want to go to business school, so I'm just going to go to law school. And, for me, I felt like I'd done the other jobs and I knew what they were about, and it wasn't really, I wanted to do something else. And so, yeah, I think I just kind of nerded out in law school and really enjoyed the material. And I also had great professors. They were really interesting and they were really open and easy to talk to, and that made it fun too. So, I mean, not every day was fun, but overall, just the learning experience was really fabulous. So I liked it. But yeah, I credit that to being older and going back.
Do you see yourself continuing? So I guess actually this is another question that came to my mind. Are there other areas that you can pivot in, like political office, that you could run for, especially now that you have a backing? We're going to claim that you are going to pass that bar. So,
oh yeah, please. I hope so. Yeah. And this is why everybody, again, if you're ever thinking about running for office, I think the best place to start is helping out somebody on a campaign. And then your next best bet is really running for like state representative or city council. Because from this position, you kind of get your feet wet. And you can run for all different kinds of things. You can run for a statewide office, like you could run for Secretary of State or General Treasurer or Lieutenant Governor. And those are much bigger positions, much more prestigious positions. And then, even potentially governor one day. But a lot of those people, they really start out in local politics because it helps you build a team, build your platform, and figure out if you are interested in this kind of stuff or not. Yeah, it's just another good reason why people should run. For me, I really like being a state representative. I like being on a team. I really like the people I work with. So I'm very happy and content in my role, and I don't think I would do much else, besides this. But yeah, I think it's a great place for people to start. If they're interested in running.
Yeah. I think it's been very informational for myself, listening to people that are in these areas of, whether they're a lawyer or in these areas of politics, is just even hearing that there's different opportunities to even go within the political field. We even had one other young woman that we interviewed. She works, I can't forget. I can't remember the name, but some part of the House. And she actually got into there by becoming doing social work, and there was a different kind of track. And then she got her way in.
That's great.
And then she was also telling us about there's so many different avenues that you could go into based off interests. And it's so interesting to hear that, because I think sometimes when you just hear politics, you're like, how do you get your foot in the door? How do you even start that process? So this has been very enlightening of where you can begin, and you just have to start, and you have to believe in yourself and fundraise.
Yeah, exactly. Those are really the three. And also too, I think I really got my start from my mom when I was a teenager, being like, we're going to go help this candidate. Because then you learn what it takes. It wasn't as intimidating for me to have to go and knock on doors, because I had done it for other people when I was 19. So, I think helping a candidate is really a great place to start. And then just, you've got to go down to City Hall and just sign your name on that line and give it a shot, because, it's interesting. It's worth it. And it's, like you said, if you have the passion for it, you'll do it.
Mm-hmm. What are some words of advice you would give to someone who's looking to either begin in politics, maybe they're fresh out of college like you were, or maybe it's someone who has been working for a while and they're considering on pivoting into into running for office or to the political landscape? What is some advice that you would give them?
I guess my advice would be get involved. I meet so many new cool people because they cared about choice, and they start to volunteer with Planned Parenthood here in Rhode Island, or they care about the climate and they're volunteering with those groups that come here and testify at the State House, or they care about issues that impact seniors here in Rhode Island. And I think sometimes it's hard to get to back a candidate if you don't know the candidate, but we all have those issues that we really feel in our core, so important. And you get involved in those different community issues or statewide issues. They'll kind of help break the barrier for you and help you meet other people, and then figure out if you want to run for office someday. I guess that would be my advice: is if you're feeling overwhelmed by this process, but you are interested in it and you have a passion, but you don't feel like you know enough about candidates, you don't want to get too involved with the candidate just yet, find those issues that matter to you and go help those organizations, because they certainly need it. And you'll meet other like-minded people, which is great too.
Well, that was great, Katie. Thank you for just allowing us to have you on our podcast, just to share this insight. I think this is really also beneficial as well, since election time is coming up as well. So I think now, I feel honestly, and I feel too, I'm not sure if you feel the same way too. I feel like a lot more young adults are more into the political landscape than we once were when we were back in school. So
yeah,
I feel like there's a lot more people now that are could possibly be considering this because they're very passionate about the issues that they have. So I think this is very enlightening episode. It gives people kind of the pathway to get there. And also I think hope, because I think sometimes people when I think of running for office, I'm like, I feel like I have a huge laundry list of things, or a huge level of maybe I need to go to get a doctorate or something, or a master's first, when I first think of that. So
yeah, no, don't need to at all. And this generation is so cool. I love seeing how creative all of they are, and the things that they've made, like the videos, the coconut tree, and I just think of everything. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's so awesome that they're also passionate about these issues at such a young age. Kemi, I mean, I don't know what we were doing. We were all just trying to get by the 10th grade. We were just praying that we could afford gas to get home.
Exactly.
But Kemi, you've always just been such a wonderful friend, and you've been so inquisitive and so smart. And I'm just so thrilled to see that you're doing this podcast, and completely honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Katie. And I'm just so excited for you and just where you're at and what you've done and what you are doing.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you want to share your website in case anyone wants to get in contact with you if they have any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is just my name.com. So katherinekazarian.com. My email address is on there. That's my personal email address. If you want to reach out, you have any questions, please feel free to do so. I think I have a phone number on there too. You can call me, text me. But I love to be accessible. I'd love to hear from anybody really that's curious or has a passion or, wants to ask more questions. So feel free to check it out and reach out.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Katie. And thank you, listeners that are out there. If you are interested in learning more about different careers that are out there, please make sure that you listen to our catalog of episodes. Please make sure to also follow us on our social media outlets on TikTok and Instagram at Yasin Podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. Our email will be in the show notes. But until then, we will see you in the next one. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to the latest episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages and check out our website. Take a look at the show notes below.
And please make sure to subscribe and share this podcast. Also, show us some love and please leave a 5-star review. Catch you next time.
See ya.